Hello, everybody. This is Travis from CampHacker.org. I'm excited to be here today with Joanne Kates, who has a great history in summer camp and some great stuff to share with us today. So, Joanne, welcome to the show.
Thank you, Travis.
It's great to have you. As I said, you have a great history in camp. Camp is certainly in your blood. Can you tell us a little bit about what your camp story is?
Well, I grew up at Camp Arowhon, so I started there. My dad was the director from 1946 until about 1970. Prior to him, my granny ran the camp. She started Camp Arowhon in 1934. And when I was about 21, so 1971, my dad kicked me out. He said, "This is no job for a woman. No man will ever follow you here." And I went off into the wide world and became a journalist for 20 years. And I thought that was a great life, and I was happy. And over the mid-'80s to the late 80s, I developed an increasing longing to go back to camp. It was sort of like, I need to go home. I need to go home, and camp is home. And I was lucky enough to have that opportunity in '89, and it turns out my dad was wrong because the guy followed me there.
Yes.
And now we run it together. Now we run Camp Arowhon together, and I love it, and it's clearly where I was meant to be.
Well, and
it's my happy place.
Others who share your profession can tell it's also where you're supposed to be, because there's been some great stuff that you've added into the community, which is why I invited you here today. But before I get too far down that road, what was it like for you growing up at camp?
You mean being the director's daughter, or growing up at camp?
Being a kid at camp, like having every summer at camp.
Well, having every summer at camp was fabulous. I mean, who doesn't want to grow up at camp? Like, it was the most wonderful thing in my life. And, you know, I'll talk more a bit later about how it was particularly wonderful for a girl to have camp, how it was life-saving and highly, highly protective of well-being and personhood. But growing up at camp was the best thing in the world. It has informed my love of nature and my love of adventure and my appreciation for challenge. And you know, like, I can go on the CBC National News and be comfortable, because once you face down that dining hall, public speaking is a breeze. If you can make an announcement at summer camp, you can talk to kings, queens, prime ministers, and crowds.
Once you can get that room's attention, you can get any room's attention.
100%. It's the toughest audience there is. I'm positive. Yeah. So I learned a lot, and I mean, if you think about what's the greatest gift? To me, at my age, I'm 62, I have 2 young adult children who also love camp. I think it's the comfort in nature and the love of adventure and the confidence in ourselves.
Right.
That's what you get from being a kid at camp.
Yes. Well, and a great experience that your kids, that you got to pass on to your children as well.
Mm-hmm. I've been very lucky to have the opportunity to do that.
That's great. The reason I asked you here, Joanne, was to talk about the Girls and Boys Circle program that we actually implemented when my wife Beth heard you speak about them for the first time. And I think it actually changed the culture. We had a great camp culture, but I think it added something amazing to our camp culture. And I really wanted to be able to share that with other camp directors. So I invited you here to talk about that. What was the origin of the idea?
Well, I learned that from 2 places. First, let me tell you the why of it. About 10 years ago, I said, okay, this clique shit has got to stop. And the whole thing about girls devoting a significant portion of their energy to primping so that they could compete against each other, that's a really important pronoun, against, to look good for the boys and attract the boys. I just said that to myself. I made a private commitment that I was going to stop that our summer camp was not going to be friendly to that behavior anymore. And we did a number of different things. So girls' circles are just, I'm not going to talk about boys' circles because I know Leon is going to talk to you about them another day. But girls' circles are one tool that we use at Camp Arowhon to reduce cliquishness, to reduce the competitive things that girls do against each other to get boys' attention, and to increase girls' empathy so that they can be kinder to each other, and to increase their ability to verbalize their feelings about each other, so that instead of acting out any little angers or feelings of letdown, they can talk them out. So girls' circles, so we have a kind of complicated program we do to achieve those goals. It's not, girls' circles are the heart of it, but there's lots of stuff we do to get to those goals. Girls' circles might be the best of it.
And
we also. Do you want me to sort of praise you the other stuff we do before we talk about girls' circles?
Details of girls' circle, but yeah, the other stuff.
We have a no primping rule, which it's really simple and clear. No girl at camp, and that includes me and all the staff, you're not allowed to wear makeup or straighten your hair or wear provocative clothing. And that would even include if you're a female counselor and you're on your day off and you're going on your day off, but you came to dinner and you're dressed nicely and you have makeup on because you're going out after, I ask you to leave dinner. You cannot role model that for our campers. So nobody ever has to look at girls or women made up or dressed provocatively. If a girl comes to dinner, showing her boobs, I say, go put a shirt on. So the anti-primping rule is very important. We do a lot of intentional programming to get especially our senior girls to be silly and be kids and play in general, and in particular with costume. So we have like ugly 80s night and stuff, and trashy night, and different costume opportunities where they can dress way up, but not in a girly way, in a funny way, because we want to use that energy, but channel it into a different place and into a sisterly place, if you will. We also have few what you might call socials or dances. And those that we do have are very brief. They're always after another activity. So we keep the unstructured social time very, very brief, because we don't. And we police very heavily at night. I know a lot of co-ed camps have some sneaking out going on, and we are rabid to prevent that. You are not going to have sexual experience at my camp, because I think it's happening to too many girls too young, and there's a ton of pressure. So that's the sort of general contour of it. And we also do, we train the female staff who work with adolescent girls, get specific training at pre-camp on what the stressors are on adolescent girls, and in terms of communication, using friendship as a weapon, early sexualization, primping, and we try to help them be ready for intervening when that kind of stuff rears its head. So, if you see girls excluding another girl, an Arowhon counselor is trained to say, girls, we don't do that here. When you just rolled your eyes at her, it's like punching her in the stomach. Or if they start to talk about boys and sex, the counselors are trained what to say. They're trained to turn it into a conversation where the counselor asks the campers about their feelings and their thoughts, rather than, lets them go on and on about what they might be thinking of doing or did do. So we're always trying to help them understand their feelings and unpack them, but not, and focus away from dating, romantic, sexual, and, girl battle behavior.
So your staff to be very aware of the power relationships going on even before you get to girl circles.
Oh, way before. Way before. Yeah. And one of the things that I think is important is to choose, 20 years ago, you got to work with the older girls if you were cool. Now we choose the staff who work with the older girls based on, do you have the moral compass to call it when they treat each other cruelly? Do you have the moral compass to call it when they put themselves down and say something like, oh my God, my thighs are so big? Do you have the moral compass to call that and initiate a conversation? And do you have the awareness to start conversations that investigate feelings rather than just letting that stuff go. Moral compass kind of covers a lot of it.
So girls' circles is one of your strongest tools.
Yeah, it's one of the strongest tools. We know there's data. The Wellesley Center for Research on Women and Outward Bound did a study on courage beads, which is just one girls' circle we do every summer with every girls' cabin and camp and with female staff. Oh, I should also tell you, we do girls' circles during pre-camp with staff, so they learn how wonderful it is and how to be in one, because you can't lead one if you can't be in one. So they did a study, Outward Bound, in the Wellesley College Center for Research on Women, of courage beads, and they found that increased empathy. There have been a couple of little studies also on girls' circles that show the same thing, that empathic behavior increases when you do girls' circles. So a girls' circle is about anywhere from 8 to 12 girls sit in a circle. The facilitator tells the rules, and the rules are what's said in the circle stays in the circle. So even if you and I run into each other an hour after the circle, you are not allowed to say to me, hey, you know what you brought up during girls' circle? Because I may feel very vulnerable and not want to talk about it. So what's said in the circle stays in the circle, and there's no commenting on what another girl says. It's not a discussion. It's a speak out. And real simple. Oh, and you always have the right to pass. So in a girls' circle, the facilitator gives the question, and we ask one question. And let's say you're doing a girls' circle on friendship. A typical question might be, when is a time when you've been a really good friend to someone else? And everyone in the circle goes around and answers it. And then second round, she says, when is a time when you have not been a good friend to someone else? Again, we go around the circle and everyone answers it. And then she says, when is a time when someone has been a good friend to you? We go around and everyone answers. And then finally, when is a time when someone has not been a good friend to you? And we go around and answer it. And you can guess when the tears flow. It's or if we're doing one on body image, it might be as simple as round 1 is what do you like about your body, and round 2 is what do you hate about your body.
Right.
So we used to, back in the old days, teach body image by teaching about body image. And you know how effective that was at helping girls kind of it didn't do anything. It was like school, right? But when we started asking them to talk about their feelings in girls' circles, I noticed that we had less dieting behavior.
Right.
Right. So they work really well. So we ask them questions in girls' circles like, would you feel any pressures about boy stuff? If yes, where are those pressures coming from, and how does it make you feel? That's all. If a girls' circle could be 3 or 4 questions, and they could go 2 hours. Our campers love them. So that's girls' circles.
Great. And you have found.
Oh, maybe I should tell you about courage beads, because that's everybody's favorite girls' circle. And that's the one I told you has very strong data. Courage beads, before camp we buy a really sweet looking little bead, and we get the gnomes in the office help before the summer to string every bead on a little teeny leather bracelet. And one night in the summer, girls' circles for every cabin, and we do it with staff also, is tell about a time when you have had to be really courageous. And then after each girl tells, she gets her courage bead. The facilitator ties it on her wrist. And the data show this raises empathy, and when you raise empathy among girls, you reduce cliquish behavior.
How is it the act of sharing that raises empathy, or the act of that small reward that does it?
I don't think they care about the reward. The reward is a symbol and a reminder, which is kind of sweet. A lot of them keep it on, for years. I see them in the winter; they're still wearing it. I think it's the act of sharing, but perhaps even more importantly, that you hear what others say, and your own empathy is raised when you understand that they've gone through stuff like you.
Yeah.
That's empathy. That's how it happens.
And I imagine it's pretty powerful. Not that the bead is a reward, but I imagine it's pretty powerful to look around camp and see the beads on everybody who shared.
Yeah, it's not a reward. It's a symbol. Yeah, and in fact, a few years ago, I thought the girls' circles were so great a few boys asked me that they wanted to do it too, and I said we were going to do it with the boys, and a number of our girl counselors flipped out. They came to me crying and said, "You can't do it with them, it's our thing." I never knew before how much they valued it. They love it. They love girls' circles. They love courage beads. They love it all. It's really important to them.
So where did you get the ideas for the questions and the topics that you cover?
Oh, girlscircles.com. Don't think I'm that smart. I'm a good researcher. Girlscircles.com is an outfit in California that originated Girls Circles, and I bought their curriculum years ago. They have a middle school curriculum, and I basically just simplified their questions. And over the years, I've added a few of my own.
Yeah.
But it came from them.
And how do you find it goes over with staff? Like someone who's new to the Arowhon culture, they come in for the first year.
Oh my God. They think we're nuts. When we first introduce it to staff at pre-camp, they're like, "We're gonna do what?" Like they already think we're kind of touchy-feely and warm and fuzzy, and sometimes they use the word cheesy. When I first introduced it to our staff, that was the word they liked. They liked to use against me was cheesy. Anything that scared them was cheesy. New people are freaked out anyway when they go to a new camp. We know that. So we just freak them out a little more. And then usually they do their first girls' circle, and maybe they have a few tears, and maybe they see somebody else have a few tears, and they get very moved, and they go, "Oh, I love summer camp. This is the coolest thing in the world," and they're on board. Very rarely do they refuse to get on board when they experience it, and if they do, then they may not be so hunky-dory with camp anyway if they're not good with it. Because we're going to ask you to open up.
Right. And as I say, I think that little push that you do at Arowhon is something that gets a lot of respect in the camp community because people can see how it's changed the people that go there.
Well, as I said earlier, my goal is to help girls have more positive relationships with each other and feel safer in the girl world and navigate their relationships by talking more about what's going on for them and acting out less. And that's my goal, nothing else. And it is my experience that the girls' circles do get you closer to that goal.
So it was 10 years ago, you say, that you started this sort of looking at things and changing the way that women at the camp were dealing with each other and being at camp and how they dealt with the men in the community?
No, I started that probably 20 years ago because when I got back to camp in '89, I found it really sexist, and that bothered me enormously. So we started doing the anti-sexist work about 20 years ago. And we did lots of stuff to reduce sexism at camp. So girls' circles were a kind of logical progression from the anti-sexist work we had been doing since 20 years ago. They're very connected.
Cool.
Yeah. Just part of making it a safer, healthier, more empowering place for girls.
Awesome. Well, Joanne, I know you have to go. You have a hard out at 10:02. So I really want to thank you for your time. It's been great. I'm so glad that you would share your insights on this and your ideas. And I look forward to talking to Leon, for those who are watching. Leon's Joanne's husband, who's going to talk to us about the other side of it, what it's like to run boys' circles. Because as I said, we ran both at our camp, and I always struggled. Beth was beautiful and amazing at girl circles, and you would know that they'd had a magical experience by the looks on their faces, and then I was never as successful at that. And so I'm looking forward to hearing about how Leon does it, because I understand he's very good at it too.
He is very good at it. Let me just tell you one thing about that. About, I don't know, 7 or 8 years ago, I decided that the boys needed to do boys' circles because the girls' circles were working so well, and I knew the boys needed it too for their own reasons, which are different. And I told the guys who are in the leadership at our camp that I thought they should do boys' circles, and they said, "No, it'll never work. Boys will never talk." And I tried everything I could to convince them to do it, and they said, "No, it'll never work. Boys will never talk." And so I stewed on that for a year, and then the next spring I announced to them. I didn't ask them, I told them. I said, "I'm doing boys' circles this summer. I'm starting them at pre-camp." Oh my God! Like they said, you? And they were all fluttery. And I said, yeah, because you guys are too scared to do them. I named it. And I know it needs to happen. So I know it might be a little awkward, but I know it's worth it. So I'm going to start it in pre-camp, the same way we started Girl Circles. And guess what? They went, oh, okay, we'll do it. And I don't tease Leon at all because it's incredibly successful. The guys love it.
Awesome.
But it was really, there was a lot of resistance, so get ready for that. And good talking to you.
Thank you very much, Joanne. I really appreciate it.
Thanks. And it was a pleasure. Thanks for inviting me, Travis.
So if people find out about Camp Arowhon, where do they look you up online?
CampArowhon.com, CampArowhon.com. We're there.
Joanne.
Thank you. Bye-bye. Bye-bye.